Hello everybody and welcome to BroomWagon. You will not get there on a road bike. Season number 8, episode number 2. On reverse. I said the same way. On reverse. Episode 2, season number 8. How it works. It works well. It's awesome, isn't it? And today I'm super excited because the episode of today is just sparkling, amazing. With somebody that is not so much... is not on this kind of content as he should be. Because he's an awesome character and he does a lot of amazing things. First of all, remember that you can support this podcast in 3 different ways. First of all, sharing it personally with your people is the most important thing. I honestly really don't care so much of reaching as many people as possible, like in a broadcasting on national TV or international European TV. That's what I like. But for sure, if somebody recommends this episode or any other episode personally with somebody, that's the thing that makes the difference for me. Organic community building. That's what I love. The second way, remember that you can subscribe, listen, rate, do whatever you want in your podcast application of choice. And the third way, if you want, please, down there is a coffee link and you can drop some coins. This will support a bit my job. Remember that you can follow this podcast and myself personally on the Instagram. I need to reconsider my social media platforms at a certain point, but that's another topic for another time. But still, Calamaro CC, my personal one, the BroomWagon Podcast is the one of the podcast itself. Let's tie things up. I already talked too much. Episode of today, Marin de Saint-Exupéry, or Marin de Saint-Exupéry. Amazing name for an amazing person. I think you already know about him because he was the one racing the mountain races series without taking any flight. Actually, you're gonna hear to the story. There was some bureaucratical headaches that took him to take some flights, 1 flight, 2 flights, in order to arrive to Kyrgyzstan. But this means actually that he left 1st of January 24 from his place in Switzerland, Vevey, and we went to Morocco for the first race of the season, February. Then he went to Greece, second race of the season, Hellenic Mountain Race, and then August to Kyrgyzstan, third race of the season. And then he came back, as he's gonna say, freewheeling. Can you imagine? I think it was 30,000 kilometers or anything like that. It took him 1 year, more or less, but this is just for a huge statement. Cycling doesn't need fuel. It's gonna be an amazing story. It was an amazing story. I have to say that I met him personally in Kyrgyzstan 2019 for the pinnacle of my podcasting experience when I was there with the Silk Road Mountain Race with Nelson and the full crew to take part of the media team, and it was just amazing. I met him there, and then of course we had a lot of friends in common as well, and then we need to close the circle, right? So that's why Marin de Saint-Exupéry is on the BroomWagon Podcast. Marin, I would say, I met him thousands of years ago in Kyrgyzstan, and you were already doing some cool things there. But hi Marin, how you doing?
Hey Stefano, doing well, and you?
I'm alright. You can see that actually is a bit more, just for full disclosure over there. We are at the moment, when you are listening to this episode in 2025, but Marin and I at the moment we're in 2024, end of the year, complete madness, but a lot of happiness. I love this period of the year. I love winter. Did you start already skiing or not yet?
Not yet. It's a bit light right now, the snow condition, but soon, hopefully. Next snowfall, it will be time.
Yeah. Yes, also that's another thing that I'm looking forward. I'm completely useless as a skier in all these forms, but I love to just go up to the mountains and check actually the snow and everything that is happening there. So I can't wait as well. Yeah. That's super awesome. So I would say that maybe I'm going to make 20 seconds of introduction. even less. Marin is the guy that last year, I mean, he's super well known to reach remote place of the world for ultra endurance races without flying, just with his bike. Or his bikes. No, in this case, his bike. And last year you did the same thing, but a bit more, let's say, in an advanced way. So that's why you're here in the podcast. As I was saying, we met in 2019 at the Silk Road Monterey. You did exactly the same thing then there. And we had already a lot of chats. And I also remember an amazing episode of you suing for the last 100 kilometers your tire that was completely destroyed, but you finished it basically with a flat tire. You're right to the end. And I thought, okay, after this amazing accomplishment that you made in 2024 would have been an amazing way of starting my season. So thanks a lot for being here, Marin.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Really pleased.
Let's start from the beginning. Marin, I'm not going to pronounce... I should pronounce, actually, and kill the ears of everybody, your name and surname. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it.
I can do it for you.
You can do it. Thank you. I'm the first time that I'm scared. But first of all, your name and surname, they're not the easiest to pronounce. And second thing, they are quite... important. So you do it.
Yeah, so I'm Marin de Saint-Exupéry. Obviously, it's a really French name.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm French, but I'm based in Switzerland since a while. So yeah, we're kind of neighbor.
Absolutely.
At least in the same country.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty it. And yeah, cycling a lot, quite far. I mean, the further I've been is Kyrgyzstan, but twice, as you mentioned, in 2019 and this past months in 2024. So yeah, and in between, I'm just going there to race, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's kind of the target when I'm going far. Yeah. It's really... Yeah, I'm mostly cycling, so that's my presentation is around cycling. So yeah.
Let's start from there, maybe, Marin. It's okay if I call you Marin, because Marin would be right.
Yeah, Marin.
Marin, okay, Marin. I will try to do it. How everything happened with bikes? I mean, you cycle. You're probably the person that rides the most that I know, probably. But how everything started? What was the first moment, the haha moment of you and the bike?
So obviously it wasn't obviously that I started cycling. So because I grew up in Paris, where you're not really meant to cycle a lot, but I started to cycle just for school, and with things I started like to kind of tweak my bike and be like appealed by fixed gear and so on, and I put my hands in mechanic stuff and so on, and then went to do some touring to escape Paris by bike with some friends, and gradually went more and more touring, went for first trips outside Paris. And yeah, like 9 years ago, I moved to Switzerland for studying, and I discovered kind of the outdoors.
Yes.
And that's where I really started to ride a lot. It was at the meantime I heard of this thing, like that was a world race crossing Europe, and that was the Transcontinental, and I was kind of hooked. So I applied the first time to Transcontinental, and that
you were super young, right? You were 17 or stuff like this.
No, not 17. The first time I applied, I was like 19, and they didn't took me, but they did not took me, and that was really nice because I could get more experience. And the next year I applied again, and I've done the Transcontinental for the first time at 20. So yeah, that was my main big race in this field, and kind of maybe I had done Alicats, which are the orientation races in cities, but like Transcontinental is my first proper race in terms of cycling. So I really don't have any background in stuff or whatever. I started by the cycling for the mechanic side, for the design side, and for like touring, but I wasn't considering it as a sport, but more as a way to get outside.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of things that bumps into my mind. First of all, you were talking about Alicats, right? At the end of the day, we can consider the Transcontinental race like an Alicat, but across Europe, isn't it?
Not difficult. I mean, no, but the alley cat is like really meant to kind of mimic the work of a bike messenger. And obviously there are a lot of bike messenger doing it. The transcontinental, there is this checkpoint stuff where you have to navigate Europe. So yes, for that reason, but it's still pretty disconnected from the bike messenger, which is the reason, the first reason of alley cats.
Okay.
So
Yeah, no, because I remember I was having this conversation, don't remember with whom, and they were telling me, yeah, at the end of the day, you have checkpoints, you have a manifest, so the brevet card, and you need to get the stamps and everything, and then who first arrives wins. Yeah, it makes sense. That's
yeah, but an alley cat is like really I guess the fun thing for an alley cat is like to be in a city, and obviously, and it's much more interesting transcontinental going out of the city. I guess that's more the big difference, and
makes sense.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that then everything started actually with your exploring and discovering this ultra endurance world. Everything started with transcontinental race, right? How many times have you ridden it?
So I finished it 3 times and scratch once, which was a year and a half ago. So 4 times in total.
I'm not going to ask you the question that everybody would expect now, but probably I'm going to wait until the end. Are you going to do it this year? I'm going to do it now.
I will do it for sure in the future. That's for sure. That's the race I started for, and that's the race which is in a corner of my mind. So don't know when, but I will do it.
That's super awesome. I have actually another question, because you were talking that actually you were attracted since the beginning about the mechanic, the aesthetics, the design of the bikes. Yeah. I always remember you riding super clean, super, lean bikes, steel bikes most of the time. Is it connected? Do you really like the aesthetics of these kind of bikes, or there is anything else in the middle?
So, I've been starting bicycles with the kind of fixed gear time. And that was, I guess, one of the real thing that attracted me to bicycle. It was how clean were this fixed gear, and more the bicycle as a beautiful tool. And at the meantime, I started to be interested by industrial design, and then I've done a school of industrial design. And during my industrial design graduation, my graduating project was I've chosen to design a bike to do the transcontinental, which was and I've always had this appeal for steel, which is a really nice material to try to understand, and which is much more not understandable than carbon, but it's made by craftsmen and so on, and you kind of much more like fine tune as a single person. You can much more fine tune how you work with it, which I guess for other materials is more difficult for a single person to put its hand in it and to understand it properly well. So I've had this attraction, and you visually when you see a steel bike, you kind of manage to understand like big tubes, shapes and so on, and it makes much more sense at a first view to understand the bike. So that was like the beauty I found in steel bikes, and that's why I love steel bike, and love to ride it, love to understand it, and love the aesthetic.
So you're still riding basically mostly steel bikes also right now?
So I'm lucky to work with Fairlight, which makes some super nice steel bike.
That's true.
It's quite funny because actually it was like during my diploma project, like a big reference for me were the Fairlight bikes.
Oh, nice.
And because they were maybe like the first of doing like this road endurance bike in this kind of a middle-sized series made in Europe and so on. And I had this big interest for the brand, so I take some inspiration how they were doing things and so on to design my own bike. And years later, I've had this opportunity to work with them as a sponsored rider. So that was like perfect.
Awesome. This circle is full now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about your 2024. And I will start actually with in my opinion, the questions that is good to address as first, and then we can take off the way and we can talk about the whole experience. But in 2024, you decided actually to take off 1st of January, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
1st of January. I mean, to
Easy
everybody.
to remember.
Yeah. No, it's actually super cool. Actually, starting this kind of adventure on the first day of the year, it's just, it's incredible. It's super nice. No, but to everybody, there's something that I wanted to mention. Then I will start back with the question. Down in the description below, I'm going to put actually a couple of films, documentaries. One was actually the one that Finlay shot, yes, couple of years ago. You were not talking about that, Le Coursier is called, but you were already starting talking about the concept and the project. It was exactly in 2023 when you started developing the project, and everything ends with that. Super amazing. And the other one is actually, I think, exactly the one produced by Fairlight, and it's actually Coursier du Monde, right? Also that one there, you explain a bit more the thing. But basically, in 2 words, you decided 1st of January 2024 to pick up your bike, start from Switzerland, from where you live, and then go into the 3 mountain races, Atlas Mountain Race, and then it's the Hellenic Mountain Race, and the most famous Silk Road Mountain Race, and back, all with a bike. So the main thing was actually to link these 3 races. The first question, to take off the way, how did they end up?
The races.
The races. That's what I was saying. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
3 minutes, and then we can move to the experience.
So, I mean, races never end up how you expected it, and that may be what we are looking for.
Absolutely.
So, to make it short, I've been sick in Atlas, so I couldn't, I've raced 5 hours to check if I was really sick, but yeah, I was really sick. So I scratched at last. Then I went into Greece, and Greece it's funny because the result is quite good. I finished second, but the race in itself, I really did not enjoy it, and it was really hard because I was struggling to eat. So if the result looks good, the race wasn't. Mixed feeling, I would say. But at the end, and only at the end, I was happy because it was over. And in Kyrgyzstan, I really had a really, really good time. I really enjoyed it. But because it's racing, and at the end there is a result and a performance. Maybe the performance was slightly below what I could expect, but that was because I was just destroyed by doing that much in that rough condition for 8 months before. So that's how it went pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And actually also we need to consider that Atlas Mountain Race, you won already the Atlas Mountain Race a couple of years ago, right? So it was something that you knew quite well. Hellenic Mountain Race is something new for everybody. It was 2nd edition this year.
So I already raced Hellenic Mountain Race, the 1st edition, so I knew what to expect. And I was hoping to do better than first time, and kind of managed to do better, but still not where I wanted. So yeah, maybe it's an excuse to get back there in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, as I was saying at the end, Silk Road Mountain Race is the race that all of us know. It changes at least in a good chunk every year, but the fact is that seems like now everybody goes there to prove anything. I mean, now Silk Road Mountain Race is basically the place to be if you want to prove yourself as an ultra endurance racers on dirt, basically.
Yeah, and actually it's quite funny because it's you mentioned that it changed quite a lot every year, but this year the parkour was really similar to the first time I raced it in 2019. So I kind of knew most of it, even if it's been 5 years in between. So you kind of forget it, and still happy to get back in these insane places. So that wasn't an issue at all.
Yeah, I mean, display. I mean, again, I think that everybody who goes in, I know why Nelson does it. That's what I want to say. I know why Nelson wants to bring us all the time to Kyrgyzstan because it's such an incredible place. You will not believe it if you don't go there. You don't believe how cool it is. I have to say that I think about all the landscapes that I saw there in the car, in that 2019, and all the things that are happening, the people there, and the different scenarios. I think about that quite often, and it's just something really incredible. It's super nice. Really super nice.
Yeah, and that was definitely the highlight of my year on a bike. That was going to Kyrgyzstan. Yeah.
That's nice. So let's jump a step back. 1st of January 2024, you decided to do all the way to link the 3 races and come back home just with the bike. Tell us more about that.
So just with a bike, and I had planned to do some ferry connection at some point, obviously, because I live in Switzerland. So I left Switzerland on January 1st, went down to Morocco to be on the start line by the early February, something like that. So yeah, that was pretty chill. I kind of knew the route because I already went to Morocco by bike when I raced it in 2022. So I kind of knew what to expect, and that was, but the big difference is that in 2022, I took the boat in southern France and kind of skipped the whole length of Spain by ferry. And this time I crossed in and back the whole length of Spain, and I just discovered Spain for the first time. So that was really nice. And especially the mainland, like not the coast, but inside Spain is like desertic, and you don't expect it to be like that desertic. So it was really nice, and I was really lucky because the timing was perfect with the meteo weather. Because like you don't want to cycle and tour in France in January maybe, but in Spain it was super chill, and that was, and the whole trip was really nice with the whole season stuff, because I was kind of like when Europe was cold, I was in Morocco and Spain, and then I came back by spring after the Atlas Mountain Race. So I had to scratch in the Atlas Mountain Race, but then I went back in Spain and crossed the whole length of Europe to up to Greece to be on the start line in May. Of the Hellenic Mountain Race.
What was the route that you took there? Basically, then from Morocco you went back inland Spain, and then you went then from there south of France and then Italy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then the whole Balkans kind of follow some few mountain bike routes there. I follow a part of the Trans-Balkans, and then I took some more pavement in northern Greece, Macedonia, and so on. And the race actually, the Hellenic Mountain Race, started in northern Greece, so it was pretty. The timing was really perfect.
Absolutely.
In between races. And a really nice thing in this stretch was like I've been crossing Europe several times, but only on tarmac, like with Transcontinental and so on. And each time I went to the Balkans, it was always racing. So you're like spending like 24 hours in like every countries of the Balkans. You're like sleeping in one, and next night you're in another one. So you don't really take time to discover it. But this time I had like perfect timing. I was able to do the whole loop by riding maybe in average like 5 hours a day maybe. So I could like discover properly all this place, and I took like a lot of off-road, really nice tracks and so on. And that was like really nice to discover Europe this way, which really changed from Transcontinental.
Yes. So chiller for sure. And then Atlantic Mountain Race, then you made the race there, and then the big leg of the trip started.
So actually, but once again, I kind of knew the route for Kyrgyzstan because I've done it in 2019 to go there. But I guess the whole project of doing this big loop this year started by the fact I wanted to get back in Kyrgyzstan.
Okay. This was the trip. This was actually the thing to do.
Getting back to Kyrgyzstan was something I had in mind for, like, I quit Kyrgyzstan in 2019, and I already knew by the minute I was out that I would love to come back. And and then there were these other race, and kind of makes sense to just connect it by bike. So but so I knew the route from Greece to Kyrgyzstan, and there are not much route to take, because like it's difficult for a French to travel in Iran nowadays. Same for Russia. And so there is this line in between these two countries where you can go to Turkey, then Georgia. And back in 2019, I went to Azerbaijan.
Yes.
But badly, since COVID, Azerbaijan has closed all its land border.
Okay.
So I was stuck in Georgia, and I tried to figure out you can go to Azerbaijan now. And they're like, no, you can only get to Azerbaijan by plane. So that was kind of a hard time, figuring out that it wasn't possible to do anymore this route by bike. That there were no more connection possible. I mean, you always can try to go to Iran or Russia, but it's not really something you want to as a French.
Yeah.
So I had at this point it was quite disappointing. I was like, maybe I go back because my thing is not to fly, or maybe I keep going, taking a plane. And at the end, I choose to take a plane to Kazakhstan, to Aktau, which is a town along the Caspian Sea, which anyway I would have been to, because that's where the ferry from Azerbaijan arrived. And then in Aktau, I was back on the route that I knew from 2019, because that's kind of the main route for bike travelers around this area of the globe. And then you have this big desert to cross along Uzbekistan, kind of crazy stuff to do. So that was so I've done this across Uzbekistan back in 2019. Now I've done it in July this year, and I've done it on the way back.
Nice. Is your backyard now?
Yeah, in September, and there is only one route across this desert, so it's quite crazy. To do it 3 times, it's really stupid fact, but I kind of think it's quite funny to do it, and to be backyard a bit, to know it really well. And now I know all the bed and breakfast along the route, all the nice restaurants along this route, which is totally pointless, but I know the address.
That's nice.
Really well.
And
then after Uzbekistan, you're basically in Kyrgyzstan. So that's it.
That's nice. And then the way back, actually, you made a loop, or actually on the way back you followed the same route on the other side?
On the way back, I kind of took the same route, but I just made a detour by Tajikistan, which is really famous for the Pamir Highway.
Absolutely.
And you're not in Central Asia every time of your life, a lot of time in your life. So I really wanted to do the detour, because I heard of it by so many people, and that was really worth it, actually. Really difficult, because it was right after the Silk Road mountain race. So I took 5 days off after the race, and then went off. And altitude was really, really tiring. The lack of food up there is also really, really tiring. And it was September, so the people in this area are nomadics. They live in yurts, but in September they went down.
They're coming
from the
back,
High Valley.
Basically.
It's the beginning of the winter season. So so in the upper valley, there were no one, really no one. That was crazy. That was that's the time of my life I felt the more remote from civilization. And compared to Silk Road mountain race, being 2 weeks after in Tajikistan felt even more remote, which is kind of crazy. You thought Kyrgyzstan was kind of the maximum you could get, and actually it was even more crazy in Tajikistan.
You went the extra mile on that. Okay.
Okay. But that was kind of an insane feeling. Just maybe 300K with seeing like one shelter with people living there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. Let's talk about that. We're talking about the route. We're talking about the your travel, your journey, basically there. You were already mentioning a couple of highlights. Tell me a bit more what, I don't know, your feelings also changing because you were mentioning already, you did already the first leg actually in a different way, but from Switzerland to Morocco, you did it already a couple of years before in 2022. Again, in 2019, you did also from Switzerland to Kyrgyzstan. But which one were the highlights of this year that you made all this trip? First, my first question. And what changed, basically? What did you feel that actually there was some changing between the routes that you did before and the routes that you did this year?
Um, I guess to start by what changed in between 2019 and this year is like, this year I kind of knew where I was going. I was super prepared. I got some experience in these races. So I knew what I had to face. And I kind of lost this feeling of immaturity maybe. And like really like when I went in 2019, I just like, I done no preparation, really not knew what I was facing. And everything was really special to me, and everything like hit me really, really, really hard, and everything was really, really crazy. And this time it's becoming a bit more like, I know the route, it's doable. I knew they were not like craziness as much as back in 2019.
Okay.
But the big thing was the length of the trip, because last time it was 3 months, this time it was 10.
Yes.
So that's really the big difference. And that goes with the highlight and the low lights, maybe also, because I was really scared to feel like loneliness and like to be kind of that it would be really hard by the end to miss home.
Of course.
10 months can be really hard. And actually, when I on the way back from Kyrgyzstan, it was maybe the best time I had on the route, because I was so happy to get back home and to have the time to do it. But I was happy to get back home. I knew where I was going, and I just took it like super easy. I had no pressure from racing after. So I was kind of all relieved with all the stuff, and that was, and it was kind of easy because I was used to it. I was riding maybe 6 hours a day, but I wasn't caring much. Everything felt so easy, and every step's like coming closer to Europe. When I found back every like little stuff that reminds me home, like had a good coffee and came back in Turkey, maybe where it looks more like Europe and so on, and felt more and more home. All the steps were really nice, and I really appreciate like going back to home by bike was maybe a really nice feeling.
That's nice. That's nice. I mean, I absolutely know what you mean. I mean, I know nothing of what you mean because I've never done anything like that, and it's probably that long for different reasons. Actually, it's actually the furthest thing that I could imagine of my life. But also on the other side, I can imagine actually the feeling, right? Maybe at the beginning you had actually the pressure. For example, at the beginning, the pressure of starting the journey, being there at a certain point, have a schedule that more or less should be there in order to arrive to the different races, perform in the races, because as much as you can enjoy the journey. I remember you saying in one of the videos that I was mentioning, at the end of the thing, it's a journey, of course, but then you also have the pressure of the race. And when you're starting a race, you want to perform. That's what it is. You want to prove yourself, and you want to, prove yourself is the best thing to say. But on the way back, then everything smells again like home, taking a bit easier. Also something like tasting on the back of your tongue, the kind of flavor on what the adventure was. So... feels dreamy.
I kind of put myself like not pressure, but I was in a kind of a mission to be at the race on the right time.
Of
but
course.
Also when I was touring, I was still training, so that was one more stuff to manage. Like I was still doing some intensity training and so on. So that was and when you do intensity training, you're really tired and it's more difficult to enjoy the travel then. So there were all those things, and on the way back, it was freewheeling.
Absolutely.
That was
No intervals.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very nice. Let's talk about actually a couple of the elements of the trip itself that I wanted to go a bit deep into. One big question that I have is actually two big questions. How do you usually draw your route? So how do you plan your route? And the second thing, do you really have a schedule there? I was not thinking about that. And thanks a lot actually that you introduced the topic. You were also training and doing some intensity training during the route. And that's another element of complexity that you're adding on. But starting from the first two chapters, how do you usually start on a map to understand, okay, this is the route that I want to do? And then straight after, do you have a schedule like, okay, by that day I need to be here, or I need to do 100 kilometers a day, or I need to arrive here today, there tomorrow, and everything like that?
So for the routes, it was quite obvious, the route in the wide angle too, because like, as I mentioned at some point, you for administrative reason, there are some countries it's difficult to go and so on. So it was quite clear from the races I had picked up what would be the route. And then I kind of planned everything back home before I left, because I left without a smartphone. So I had no choice then to reroute. So before I left, I planned everything on an app, put everything on the computer, on the bike computer, and I left with like almost 30,000 kilometers planned on the bike computer.
Okay.
And then I just had to follow it. I kind of could change it slightly with because I had a map on the bike computer, but it's not really precise. So
Absolutely.
kind of mostly stick with it. And then so I had this timeline to respect, to be at the races. And depending on how much time I had, I could take some more off-road, because off-road is kind of slower. You might do less kilometers if you're going off-road. So I kind of calculate like that how much time I had in between both races, how many kilometers, and then how much I could go off-road or not. Like, for instance, in Europe, going from Morocco to Greece, I had quite a lot of time. So I done a lot of off-road, and then I pick up some trails I had found on bikepacking.com, or as I mentioned, I follow also the Trans-Balkan route from a previous edition of the race. And I kind of link all these trails I found. That was like really nice route at the end. But in Uzbekistan, it's pretty easy also. There is no bikepacking.com route, but but there is only one tarmac route that goes across the country. So you don't even need a bike computer there. Yeah. So
you follow the roads. That's it. You follow the road.
It's like straight line, flat. So yeah, that's kind of how I managed to do it. And yeah, maybe on the way back, because I was really tired and so on, I took like mainly tarmac on the way back from Kyrgyzstan. And then in Europe, I followed Eurovelo in Eastern Europe. So that was super nice. And yeah, trying to combine all those bike routes I couldn't find was the best. But like in Asia, you don't find much bike routes. So you kind of manage what you find. And like, for instance, in Turkey, it's really difficult to find some nice routes, and even the maps like OpenStreetMap and stuff like that are not really developed. So at some point, I just found, like, I went on Google Satellite and I just found some tracks going over mountains by thinking, not really knowing what it was. Like, maybe it was goat tracks or actually a proper track. Yeah. So I end up in some crazy stuff in middle of nowhere in Turkey, but that was really nice.
That's the adventure, isn't it?
Yeah, that was it. And that was just to get off the main roads. That was the main reason. And it ended up to be like the really nice time and maybe the best time I had in Turkey. So
Yeah.
at the point, like local people, they were telling me, no, but don't go there. There is no route and so on. Yeah, but I've seen on satellite there is something looking like sandy that might be a track or stuff like that. And that was really nice.
It worked. So
Yeah,
basically,
it
then in
worked.
the second part, basically on the way back home, there was some level of, how would you say, something like not unknown but improvisation. Let's say you also checked around, see whatever you could do just to enjoy your trip back.
Yeah. At some point, as I mentioned, you need to go free will, and had to improvise. And sometimes you just see like a road saying Istanbul and you follow it because you're bored of following your computer.
Yeah.
And it works. I mean, like especially in Turkey where you're allowed to ride bicycle in the fast lanes, which are
Yes.
pretty safe because there is like this big emergency lane on the roadside.
Mm.
So it's really nice to ride on it. I mean, it's not like pretty or picturesque or whatever, but when you're tired and
You just
riding
want to follow
bike,
it.
it's straight and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
enjoy it. And it's like there are restaurants along the route. It's easy to follow. It's an easy route. So
Yeah, not so much actually mind bugging. Just follow the route, follow
yeah,
the signs, and go on that. Yeah, yeah,
sometimes it's good to go easy.
absolutely. We need actually to address then the main topic, I believe, here. Why? So you did all this. It was not the first time. We mentioned that already. Atlas Monterrey's was that one in the film from Philly. I saw that actually you also went to the Traca, so to Girona.
Yeah.
In the same way, Silk Road Monterrey's 2019. It was not the first time that you were doing it, but this time you took it in a proper way. Let's say you really scored the big one. So why?
Yeah, so actually it's always been there. I always try to avoid flying to go for a race. Like from the first transcontinental, I took back the ferry after the race. I remember we were like a small group of riders. It was ending up in Greece, and we all took the ferry to go back in Central Europe. So that was really funny, and it's always been there because just to find a more sustainable way to race, just to go easy on it. And and step by step I understood that like where my bike could get me, and they were like pretty much the limit was really far, and it ended up right now my limit is Kyrgyzstan, but I'm able to get there by bike, and that works.
Yeah.
And I'm even able to be competitive going there by bikes. Like I won the Atlas by crossing Morocco before. This year I finished 5th in Silk Road Mountain Race. So it's doable to do it. So why not doing it? I got the luxury of time. So it's quite special. I had that much time, but then I just want to take this time and do it. That's
No.
quite, as
Yeah.
simple as that. And then obviously it's a big adventure. It's something I'm loving, but the main reason is mainly avoid flying and proving there is a way to do.
Yeah, and actually, exactly by that. So basically, avoid flying because that's actually the main big topic there. I'm gonna take it on a different way. So basically, I see so many times, and especially in the cycling bubble or whatever, people not blaming anybody, but actually it's a lifestyle, right? So something like picking up flights to go and do some cycling vacation or do whatever, right? That's actually something, a habit that is coming. And also because all of us cyclists, I think that we believe, especially people like that they have a bike and they do most of the things with a bike, commuting with a bike, going in the city in the bike, and some trips with a bike, bikepacking and everything. We truly believe basically that we are, I call ourselves green superhero, not really thinking that we can harm the world just because we are riding the bike all the time. But also on the other side, there are still some little habits that can be changing, right? And making things in a better way, for example, for avoiding flights and do something, whatever like that. So you basically put there, as I was saying, you actually scored a big one in this time, going all over these 3 races, traveling around Europe and arriving until Central Asia with a bike. And you proved that it's possible. Have you heard anything? Or you think that actually, do you feel that you had an impact, an inspiration about it? Or have you done it for this reason? Or you just did it for yourself?
So like in 2019, when I went first time in Kyrgyzstan, I was doing it for myself. That's for sure. I was just, I wasn't on social media. I wasn't like, I guess Nelson was not even aware I was going to his race by bike from Europe. And I just pop up there, raced, and that was it. And then I understood with the time that it could have kind of an impact, even if it's a really niche sport and so on. But the main impact being like telling another narrative, another story from what's sport nowadays and what's doable with a bike, and more putting like in the center that first my bike was there as a tool. I mean, as I mentioned, the first time I grabbed a bike was to go to school.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what's for everybody. At first it's a tool, and then we get kind of mad with it. But at first it's a tool to move around, and I guess that's the main appeal for me about bike. And then it gets really far, and it's really funny that what you can make with a bike, but it's always to remind what's a bike. And so it's cool if it can have an impact, and I guess it's something I really want to develop, like to be putting it to be talking of it, just to kind of try to make mind change around, like maybe thinking there are no limit to our lifestyle, but actually there are limits.
Yeah, of course.
And we are kind of facing it pretty brutally nowadays. So it's nice to kind of try to find like tweaks to do things. And obviously, not everyone's gonna get to Kyrgyzstan by bike to race. That's for sure. But there are other ways. And honestly, also something is like, if I didn't went to Kyrgyzstan by bike first time, I guess I would never have been to Kyrgyzstan, and that would have been pretty okay also, just to race closer home and so on. And that's what I'm, like you were mentioning, Traka, and just going like last year to Traka by bike was also a really nice adventure, really closer to home. And actually it was even maybe more like Traka is like really a full speed event. Everything goes really crazy there. And that was even more weird to end up there. And I was like camping along Girona and stuff like that. And that might felt even more weird to be in Traka, getting there by bike camping, than going to Kyrgyzstan by bike, where everyone is kind of crazy by bike and so on. Just trying to find a way to do in different fields of cycling and so on. And if it can inspire, it's really like perfect.
Absolutely. I wanted to hear. So it's super inspiring. It's super cool. You are doing really something that is not common, but super inspiring. Have you heard anything? So I don't know, there are people reaching you saying, look, thanks to your example, I've done this, or why don't we organize anything? I organize with my friends to the Traka or to wherever else, just with a bike or anything like that. So how was people's reaction, if you heard any?
Well, not really linked by people reaction, but there are stuff happening around, like from the organization of the Transcontinental race. That said, first at the Transcontinental race, this green leaderboard category, where it was promoting people avoiding flying. And also they said this race in the Balkans that's named the Accursed race, starting in Albania. And that was really funny because I was at the start during my big trip of this Accursed race, because I was passing by and I was super curious about this bike race that was like speaking of what I was doing. So that was really nice to see that, and to see there were a lot of stuff happening around. I guess in cycling it's really niche yet, but there is a lot of inspiration to take from other sports. I know in like climbing, it's been something like combining mobility. Even like in Switzerland, we have this thing we call veloski, where we just strap the skis along the bike and go skiing by
super
bike.
Cool.
And so it's something global kind of to take bike mobility to this kind of point it get crazy, but yeah, it's something global, and I guess there is a lot still to do in the bike world, and it's quite funny to do. So let's go.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember actually I was talking because a quiz race, basically Josh Ibet was leaving his van here, parked at my guest park here at my apartment. And he came, so he left the car here and then he went with the ferry, basic train and ferry to the Akurs. And then he came back and he was telling me actually, now I forgot, that you were there as well. And you had a super good chat about that, about everything. So yeah, it's super cool. And actually having these kind of races in this way, it really makes the difference. It's super nice.
No, and there are quite some people doing it from a while now. I mean, I mentioned also when I first raced the Transcontinental, we were a whole like gruppeto to come back from there to Central Europe and taking the ferry together. And I guess it's a minority, but it's always been there, and now it's more and more a thing, and that goes the good way. Now we got to shift the gear and go faster, and yeah.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. It's good actually to see this community that is anyways growing, and thanks to the things that you are doing or that everybody is doing, or the Lost Dot organization that is doing that, actually gaining way more visibility on doing things in a different way. That's super nice.
Yeah, and something I guess it's super nice with combining races with this type B mobility is like there is this racing time which is like all about racing, and it's really nice experience, but it's quite particular. And to add some touring or some crazy travel around, it's like grow this journey to a whole experience where you get much more than just racing, where you just fly, get to a place, stay there for a night before the race, get back home, which is really condensed and kind of fast life.
Stressful.
And there you take your time and you add like a lot to it, to the experience, and that's something I guess to value. Like there is just not the race. There is some stuff around.
That's perfect. No, that's really, really nice. You were mentioning before that actually you left home without the smartphone.
Yeah.
Why this extra layer? Just you wanted to disconnect.
Yeah, I mean, once again, because I knew it was possible, I guess. Indeed, I only have a smartphone. I guess it's been before I left. I had a smartphone for like 2 years, but before I was living really well without smartphone. In 2019, I already did not have a smartphone, and I went to Kyrgyzstan pretty smooth without it. So that was, then you're really disconnected from what you're living everyday life. And maybe if you want to go to such a big trip, it's to disconnect. So let's go all in.
Absolutely.
When you're connected, you kind of looking, everything in advance and so on, and that's not something I'm looking for. I want to discover things like first when I see it and when I face it. So just to try to go in the unknown, even if now it's like a global world and it's difficult to really go in the unknown, but to kind of push this feeling. Just basically really good to don't have the emails or to not be reachable every time, every day. And that's quite, that's a feeling you don't get to have a lot nowadays. So that was, quite a unique experience to be disconnected from that for 10 months. But also something I really felt is like compared to 2019, it's becoming really hard to travel without a smartphone because everything is set up around smartphone nowadays. So like everything, like you're the alien not having a smartphone. Like even like goalkeeper in the middle of whatever remote mountains, they are here scrolling in their smartphone, and you're that guy coming from Western Europe where they imagine you to be like everyone super rich, or they imagine like you coming from you say you're coming from Paris or whatever. Yeah, the struggle to understand why you don't have smartphone.
Yeah.
So it creates kind of this feeling where you're not really in the same page with people.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to understand, but still doable, and harder and harder. But I guess it was really nice overall. I'm really happy having done it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Marin, I want to ask you the last question, and it's the easiest one to ask. What's next? So what's your plan for... I mean, now, please, I don't want you, if you haven't thought about that, don't feel pressure on me doing it. But if you have anything in mind, it's just, for example, if there's going to be something documented of what you have done in the 2024, let us know. Or if you have any plan already set up for 2025, where you're going to push these, I mean, not push actually your plan like this one far, but actually my push thing is where are you gonna try to connect and try to stream this experience that you got this year? Where are you trying to let people aware that a word traveling by bike or just using a different mobility or just enjoying the journey or everything else that you have done, how are you gonna spread it?
So first thing is just to get back home in a routine. That's the first thing, but I'm kind of doing it right now.
Okay.
No, and more seriously, like, yeah, I guess something I struggled with was to kind of always something I try to do is to be performant in races, and doing such a big trip, it's really harder. So something I would like to is to race races where I can still not fly, but perform a bit better. That's something that I would like to push in 2025. And also maybe trying to share it a bit better, because yeah, when you don't have smartphone, you don't really share it. So that's something also that would be nice, to stay in a more connected world. But obviously, because I kind of proved that I could do it, I would like to push this insane kind of experience to the next step. So there will be, like, I'm pretty sure, when I found the motivation back and the nice races, the next nice project, there will be like another big loop like that, trying to race wherever.
Okay, so you're not done yet with these bit adventures.
No, that and it's a learning process. I've learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure I could really improve next time. I'll do it differently, another way. Yeah.
That's perfect. I can't wait actually to know more about. And first of all, I'm super glad that you're already not planning, but still something like placing on your head a little room to do something more about that. So it means that actually we are gonna be really, I don't know, engaging with some cool and even more amazing stories than the one that you're telling us today. So that's super nice. And also I can't wait to see more actually what's your next races or next adventures or next everything you're going to actually pull outside. So yeah, thanks a lot for that, for doing that, and actually to give us this kind of different angle on things, because otherwise looks like everything is the same, but you're doing things in a different way, and that's so refreshing.
Cool. Well, thank you, Stefano.
No worries, Marin. Well, what can I say? Anything else? I don't know. Can we find you anywhere? We talked already that actually you're quite disconnected, but we can find you on social media and stuff to know more about stuff that actually they're coming out from your next planning.
Yeah, maybe social media is not my strength, but more maybe social media from my sponsors.
That's perfect.
Albion, Fairlight, Apidura, and Quark and Puck.
That's perfect. They are gonna actually spread a bit more the things that you are gonna do and that you already did for this 2024. Marin, thanks a lot for our chat. It was super inspiring. And again, for everybody out there, it's not like this, but for us, next time that I'm coming to Lausanne, I'm happy actually to give you an high five. And we can get a coffee. I can't wait for it.
Cool. Yeah,
that's
would be nice.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Stefano.
Ciao, Marin. Marin, it was incredible misspelling and mispronouncing your name over and over. Really, thanks a lot for everything you have made. It's just lovely. awesome. You're a huge inspiration, and people, just keep yourself tuned in, because something will happen, and hopefully with one of my side projects I can support this thing that is going to happen. Stay tuned on my social media, CalamaroCC, the BroomWagon Podcast, because there you're going to see a lot of news, updates on the awesome activities of Marin. And you, people, thanks a lot for reaching out. Thanks a lot for arriving till here. Thanks a lot for listening to this awesome episode. It's not about me. It's about the people that I'm interviewing that are really making the difference in this awesome cycling world. I'm gonna go myself silent. I mean, it was an interesting start to the season. 2 episodes in 2 weeks with a bang. Next couple of weeks I'm gonna be a bit more silent, and then I'm gonna start beginning of February with something new. You're gonna hear more about that. If you follow me on social media, you probably know what I'm talking about. In the meantime, please, if you like this episode, remember to share it with any of your people. Personal share is always the best. And review, rate, do whatever you want to do with this episode on your application of choice for your podcasts. People, I will talk to you soon. Have an amazing week.